Well, it's with great pleasure that I get to introduce Dr. Matthew Deevers, the Executive Director of Summit Education Initiative. He previously held the role of Senior Research Associate at the Summit Education Initiative before becoming Executive I'm having a hard time, Executive Director, Matthew. Matt earned his undergraduate degree from Miami University and completed his graduate studies in educational research, learning theories, and human motivation at Cleveland State University. His professional interests center on creating equitable systems that support all learners. What a timely topic for this new school year. When he's not working, he enjoys tackling an endless list of home improvement projects along with his wife, Shannon, and spending time with their 3 children. Matt, we're really thrilled that you're here. Adult learning is a passion of mine from my past days as a medical educator before I became a hospital administrator. So I really look forward to your comments. Matt, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Thank you all for having me and for amping up my anxiety about whether my mute button was on for the past 20 minutes, just to be sure. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the group. I believe this is actually the second time that I've spoken to this group since I've been at Summit Education Initiative, and it is always a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with this Rotary group or any Rotary group. I've always been a fan of the work that you do, and I think that you provide a really valuable service in the communities where you're located. So thank you for that. I am the Executive Director at Summit Education Initiative. I think one of the first responsibilities for a new hire here is after working for a week, if they can explain to somebody else what we do at SEI, then their probationary period is over. So it's a little challenging. We are what's called a backbone organization. We are a not-for-profit education group, but we do not provide direct supports to students or families. What we try to do is support and enhance systems that already exist throughout the community and bring those systems together around a set of organized goals and a vision for the future that everybody can buy into. So I think for me, at least, and hearing the talk a little bit earlier about the importance of work, for me, it's always important to know why I do the work that I do. What is it that I'm hoping to accomplish in life, whether that's one of the home improvement projects or whether it's something here at the office. So let me begin with a few assumptions that we have here at Summit Education Initiative. The first assumption is that we believe that educational attainment is the clearest path to personal and regional prosperity. We define educational attainment as the individuals within a community having the degrees and skills they need to get the jobs they want to have so that they can live the life that they want to live. I was driving into work this morning and listening to one of my NPR podcasts where they were talking about how there's been an uneven recovery during the recession or the pandemic, and that people with college degrees and traditional 9-to-5 jobs are benefiting and rebounding a lot more quickly than frontline workers and working class members of the community. And so we see again evidence there that increased educational attainment creates opportunities and pathways and allows us to shift with changes in our economy, and it creates greater pathways and opportunities for us in the future. This idea that we want people to have the education and skills they need to do the jobs they want really comes down to the idea that we want everybody to be on a chosen career pathway. I've been having this conversation for a decade now, and what I've been saying is that the happiest people I know in life are the people who, when you ask them why they're doing what they're doing, they say to you that they chose it, that this was something they wanted to do, something they cared about. And so we want people to be able to graduate from school at any time when their education career is finished, so that they have the skills and certificates that they need to follow the career pathways that they have chosen. We want kids, we want adults to have choices not to be facing consequences, wondering why it is that they were unable to follow the path that they wanted. But we also know that if schools could increase educational attainment in Akron or in Summit County or in our country, if there were some sort of great secret to how to fix everything, people would have been doing it by now. Nobody is saving their best ideas for later. Nobody is holding back their best energy. And so at Summit Education Initiative, one of the other assumptions that we make is that if we're going to improve the lives of individuals and the prosperity of our community, we're going to need to work together. It has to be a community effort. One thing that I've always found interesting is this idea, or the statistic that less than 30% of the adults who drive into a community like Akron for work every day actually have children in the school district. And so if what we do is leave the outcomes to families and schools and say, good luck, the overwhelming majority of the adults who have access to resources and support and interests are not connected to the schools in any way. And so we understand that it's going to take all of us working together and sharing our resources and sharing our interests in ways to support students who can go on and lead happier, more prosperous, more fulfilled lives. Selfishly, I am very interested in my children's generation having a very successful long life, because as my wife explained, we need someone taking care of us. And we need to know where we're going to move into when we get too old and crabby to take care of ourselves. And so I want my children, I want my children's friends, I want the generation that follows them to be happy and prosperous. And more importantly, I want them to remain active citizens and to understand that making this world a better place and making their community a better community is a part of their responsibility. So I would also raise the fact that, for example, voter turnout tracks very highly along with rates of educational attainment. So sometimes we even think about the work that we do as an opportunity to protect our democracy. So ultimately, the idea here is that when the community comes together under shared goals, everybody benefits. The students are more likely to have greater outcomes, provided that we can all work in the same direction and that we can provide the support that is needed when it's needed. If I were to apply your four-way test to the work that we do at SEI, just on some of our underlying assumptions and getting started, I think it's arguable or undeniable that this is the truth, that education and the skills that you need to get the jobs that you want is critical. I believe that the work we do is fair to all concerned, because we cannot mark progress simply by holding up the small percentage of the most successful students we know. We need to make sure that we are supporting all students. Obviously, it builds goodwill and better friendships when everybody's committed to a shared goal, and when people understand that they can make a difference in their communities, even when they're contributing to support students that they've never met before. And clearly, it's beneficial to all who are concerned. The idea here that people who are living prosperous lives are able to give back to their community rather than to rely on their community for support in bad times. And so in general, that is what we do at SEI from a conceptual standpoint. Now there are some details. Obviously, we don't just sit around and have big ideas and ask ourselves what would be really cool. We have to do something about it. And the way I would describe the core functions of what we do here at Summit Education Initiative is when you go to see your physician for your annual checkup, they check your blood pressure. They do a blood test. They check your pulse. And in fact, I've noticed that a physician or physician's assistant never misses an opportunity to check your blood pressure. And that's because we know blood pressure is associated with so many other issues, and it can be an indicator, an early bellwether for things that could be going on. So in education, what are these blood pressure measures? There are things like absences from school. There are things like grade point average, or test scores, or letter grades in core courses, ACT scores. And so what we do at Summit Education Initiative is basically take the academic blood pressure of every single student in Summit County and understand which students are most likely to encounter significant challenges or setbacks in the future based on the data that we have currently. And in studying that data, we may identify students or groups of students or neighborhoods or school buildings or communities where there is a greatest sense of need. So once we know that data are pointing in the direction of the greatest sense of need, the next thing we start to do is have some strategic conversations about what would it look like if we were to provide students with the support that they need in order to overcome some of the barriers and challenges they're facing. And what if we could do that before they even realize that they're going to hit these barriers and face these challenges. In other words, if we can predict into the future which students are going to struggle, then we can organize school, family, and community-wide supports to get students the help that they need before they even realize that they're going to struggle, and just offset some of those challenges before they even occur. And as we're thinking strategically, we're asking ourselves questions. We can't do everything. We can't be all things to all people. So who in the community is already doing that kind of work? What kind of other nonprofit partners are working with students beyond the school days? Who is providing families with education on how to support their child in infancy and early childhood years? Who is making sure that children are getting food? Who is checking neighborhoods for opportunities for kids to get involved, or making sure that the community is a safe place for children to learn? Who's mentoring kids so that they have a view of themselves in the future that's positive and aspirational? And so once we have the data and it's telling us where the area of concern is, and once we're having conversations to make sure that we're bringing to the table all of our partners to have strategic conversations around what could be done and who already has access to the students and families who need the greatest amount of support. And then we start to work with our partners to develop tactics. And a tactic is a really specific, localized effort that we will work to employ and demonstrate its effectiveness by coming back to the original data point at the beginning and check to see whether the things that we're doing are bringing about a difference in the lives of students. So did that mentoring program improve student attendance rates in that neighborhood or community? Or were students less likely to face disciplinary issues when they were participating in this after-school program? Did that tutoring program that worked with kids on Saturday afternoons in the fall actually raise ACT test scores and increase students' opportunities to go to post-secondary programs? Is that apprenticeship program actually leading to students getting jobs in their chosen technical fields so that they have a greater path to move forward? So we're studying data across what we call the Cradle to Career Continuum. So we have 6 critical transition points, and at each one of those points, we have those blood pressure measures, things like attendance and grades and test scores and grade point average. Our 6 critical transition points are kindergarten readiness, 3rd grade reading, middle grades mathematics, 9th grade success, a good start to high school, career and college readiness at the end of high school, and then post-secondary matriculation and completion. And those are the 6 points that we're monitoring at all times across not only Akron, but all of Summit County, and then working with school, family, and community partners, philanthropy leaders, business leaders in the community, government officials, to ask big questions, to ask what is it going on, where do we see opportunities for systemic improvement, and what is it that each one of us within our own locus of control could be doing in order to make a difference, and what would it look like if we were all working together toward a shared goal. I will say that I joined Summit Education Initiative in 2012, and in 2016, in the fall of 2016, we made a public and concerted commitment to not only continue the work to increase educational attainment across our community, but to make at the very heart of our work a focus on equity and opportunity and inclusion for all students. such that we no longer simply measure our progress by our ability to move the average or the rates across the entire population, but to make sure that specifically that we are able to close academic and opportunity gaps that exist between white and African American students or Latinx students and members of our other non-white members of our community. This is very important to us because as we move forward and look to the future, a future which is undoubtedly a more diverse future with people from all different places and all different walks of life, we need to understand that the systems that we operate every single day can either contribute to increased equity and outcomes for all, or they could limit opportunities and maintain some status quo situations that would keep some students from reaching the prosperous lives that we hope that they can all have. So that is as much as I can say without getting in too deep in the weeds about Summit Education Initiative. And at least it's been in my experience that there are no shortage of questions from Rotarians about this kind of work. So I'm happy to field any questions that anybody has.
Well, Matt, this is Jack Herrig. I'm moderating the questions today. I have a question from Dr. Rob. Can you share an example of successful systems project which ensures equitable learning now that we are virtual in many schools?
So I've been saying since the spring that in many ways we are in uncharted waters. We've never had to do what it is that the school systems are being asked to do right now. And so it is hard for me to right now directly point and say, we've moved some educational outcomes as a result of what's happened in the past 5 months. But let me give you an example from our early childhood work that is creating a greater equity and opportunity in our community. We, in the past 3 or 4 weeks, have built a partnership with Akron Public Schools and with our network and coalition partners in early childhood and our after-school program operators, what we call the out-of-school time partners. Because we have relationships with over 150 preschools in Summit County, and we have over 60 after-school, weekend and after-school programs that are connected with us in one way or another, we know them. We were able to reach out to them and start collecting information about, for example, preschools, you're typically only dealing with children under the age of 5 or 6, but many preschools have shifted because families have a greater need and families are asking, can you watch my 9-year-old during the day because I need to go to work and my child is online for school. So those preschools are opening up extra seats for older children. But Akron Public Schools doesn't know where those kids are. We've built a network of information sharing between the preschools and Akron Public Schools, where Akron Public Schools is not only learning where students are during the day if they're not at home, but also they're hearing from the preschools questions about limitations for high-speed internet access or physical infrastructure. For example, preschools only have little chairs. If you've got a 12-year-old sitting in that room, they don't have any space. And so what we've been able to do is mobilize our preschool community and Akron Public Schools to put them together so that now Akron Public Schools is letting families know when there are existing spots for childcare and supervision during the day in either in one of our after-school programs or in our preschool settings. And they're also directing additional resources like Chromebooks and Wi-Fi hotspots to those programs who are saying that they have kids coming in, but they don't have the bandwidth to support them. And that is something that grew right out of our early childhood network facilitator and our director of strategic initiatives, just having conversations and asking what is the need and how can we support it.
Matt, Terry asks the question, what is your staffing makeup and where does your funding come from?
We are currently a staff of 9. So we have half the staff is focused on data research and analytics, and the other half is focused on community and engagement and strategy and action. And so we're a staff of 9, including myself. Where does our funding come from? Often from folks such as yourselves. We do have an endowment that keeps the lights on and does fund about 1.5 of our staff members. And then we're fortunate to receive a lot of support from local philanthropy. So Akron Community Foundation, GAR Foundation, and United Way Summit Medina are among our strongest funders. We're considered an apex partner with GAR and United Way, which means we are the educational attainment support that they need in the community. And then everything else, we're writing grants. We've been fortunate to receive some grant support in recent years from Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, specifically to promote STEM-related careers in middle grades mathematics. We do not charge any of the schools after-school programs or weekend programs for any of the work or support that we do. The idea here is that if schools have to make a decision between working with us or helping kids go on a field trip, it's a lose-lose situation. And so there are no fees charged for any of the work that we do. Our school's limited to, I saw the chat there. We'll work with anybody who works with children, youth, and families in Summit County. So our support is not simply limited to public schools. We do have some private and parochial schools who engage in some of our early childhood work. And we have at least one parochial school that will often join our high school group that meets 4 times a year that focuses on data outcomes and strategies for high school students.
Dr. Rob, I don't see any more questions. Matt, do you have any questions about Rotary, things that you would like to know about Rotary more in depth that we could share with you? Oh, here's another question, just before you answer that. What type of work are you doing with apprentice programs?
So the work that we do, we don't work directly with, obviously we don't run apprentice programs. What we do is we identify apprenticeship programs that already exist, and we try to connect them with the schools where students might have the interest in those programs. So for example, every 18 months, we bring together any union or recognized professional certification program, an apprenticeship program that provides opportunities for students right after high school. And we connect them with every high school counselor in Summit County so that they can explain how their programs work and get the resources and materials directly into the hands of the students. Similar to the work that's going on in the college and career academies of Akron, where there are corporate sponsors who are not only giving financial support and personal time, but also dedicated opportunities for apprenticeships.
Matt, I had a question. This is Rob again. You mentioned on your intros that you give service from cradle to grave.
Cradle to career.
Cradle to career. So once I'm in my career, I age out of your practice. Is that what you're saying?
So it's interesting that you would say that or ask that question, because we were just talking about that last week. First of all, there's another nonprofit in Summit County named Connexus NEO, and their workforce development. And we work often with them hand in hand. Both of us are key partners in the college and career academies of Akron. And so oftentimes when adults leave the traditional dedicated education system, oftentimes Connexus picks up. However, having said that, for the past 2 months, we have been in the process of building, and now we have launched what we call College Restart. And that is where we are training ambassadors to take a neighborhood grassroots approach to connect with friends, family members, or maybe there's an ambassador in a workplace who's going to talk to adults in Summit County, among the 29,000 adults in Summit County who have some college but no degree or certificate, and encourage them to return to either Stark State Akron or University of Akron and finish their certificate or degree. And so we are out there. We've built the infrastructure to go out and do the recruiting in those communities, and that work's launched currently in Cuyahoga Falls with our first pilot program, where we've got a dozen or so ambassadors who are out connecting. Obviously, we thought it would be more of a door-to-door kind of campaign when we first planned it, so that's been a little bit of a change, but a lot of social media work, reaching out to friends through Facebook or Twitter or what have you, and encouraging them to get involved. The other piece to that, I would say, is as we think internally about this, the kinds of conversations we want to have with adults who are in their careers or mid-careers is understanding the role that they can play in feeding back into that system that supported them. How do we connect you with a program that is in need of mentors? How do we connect you with a program that is in need of reading tutors, so that when you've reached a point in your life where you can give a little bit back, how do we connect you with the programs that could benefit most from that?
As you look at some of those projects, I'm curious because we work with the Interact Club at North High School, and a lot of those kids don't see it as a multiple choice for their career. They think they have to either go out and get a job and then they're done, or they can get a job that might provide some tuition reimbursement. And that's like a foreign concept to many of those students. And that's something that we've been working as a club. Mary McCall has been leading that effort with their guidance teachers to really help recognize that it's not binary. You make a choice and then you can build on it. So if there's ways that Rotarians can participate in any of your activities, please feel free to reach out. That's really one of our sweet spots, is educational opportunities for youth.
So I will make a brief shameless plug for our career awareness video project. And the goal of our career awareness videos is to interview adults in Summit County who reflect the diversity of students and career opportunities in our community. And the way that works is if anyone were interested in volunteering, they can go to our website, seisummit.org/volunteer, and click on the link for career awareness videos. So seisummit.org/volunteer. They could see a career awareness video link where they complete a form. We have a consultant who's working to look at balances of videos we've already produced and videos that we want to produce that reflect the diversity of career opportunities and pathways in our community. And then people who are invited for the interviews, we do interviews on the first Wednesday of every month. You get a half-hour time slot, and that half-hour interview is edited down to about 2.5 to 3.5 minutes, just so kids can get a sense of, oh, this is a person who lives in my community who cares about what it is that they do for a living, and what they do looks kind of interesting to me. Maybe I might want to check out more of that. So I think that's a really great way to create just a little bit more capacity, along with all the mentoring opportunities that already exist. Again, as I said, we don't run programs here. What we do is try to identify programs that are already running and see what we can do to connect students who need them.
All right, Matt. Well, thank you very much. That was very informative and exciting to know that there's some new horizons you're approaching as we get thrown new opportunities with our COVID experience. So hopefully we'll have a lot of good come out of this that'll stick and be helpful. And we appreciate you spending time with us. At this point, I want to see if our lotto is ready to roll.
Yeah, Dr. Rob, I think we're all set. Whoops. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Looks like we have 23 entries into the lottery, and I did the random lottery, and Mike Gladys is our winner. So Mike, if you can
All right,
unmute
Mike.
yourself real quick and give me a number between 1 and 34 for the progressive lottery. Mike still out there?
Are you muted, Mike? It looks like Mike.
Mike may be gone.
I think Mike has left us.
Okay, I'll follow up with Mike.
All right, thank you, David. Next week's speaker is our very own Dan Reynolds, as he gave a shameless lead in when he gave us happy dollars to be excited about what he could imagine what that speaker is going to talk about. So please stay tuned and hear what we hear from Dan Reynolds. Any final comments for the good of the people? Connor, you just popped up there. Did you have something? You're on mute.
I didn't realize I had unmuted myself, and I was just saying all right about Dan.
All right, good. I'm glad you're enthusiastic about Dan. Well, again, for those of you who may not have been on a call with us recently, we do keep the line open for another 10 minutes so that in order to promote some collegiality off the script of a meeting. So I am going to turn my camera around. So the crystal ball, which I have to have handy at this time of my life, but more importantly, our Rotary bell. I will end the official meeting of our Rotary. And then several of us will stay online for a little bit yet. And please have a safe week. Take care.
Anybody who would like to ask Matt more questions or just chat, please feel free to open your mics at this time.
Hey, Matt, this is David Hall. I just want to say thanks. It was a great talk. Appreciate it. I actually had reached out to my wife, who's a Akron Public School kindergarten teacher, and said, hey, would you like to join? And she says, no, I'm busy doing something called kindergarten screening using his application. So
Yes, I was just going to say your wife is going through using my kindergarten screener right now. That's great. It's wonderful.
absolutely, yeah. So she was too busy to join, but yeah, very excited and loves working with that. So thank you.
Who's the big favorite in the cornhole tournament this weekend?
I don't know who those ringers are. Dr. Doug, can you tell us who the ringers are?
I think he's off.
He's gone.
I don't know.
I don't know, they get pretty good participation with it.
Yeah, I'm doing the recreational because I saw the pro division last year, and those guys are, hitting the hole every time. It's unbelievable. So
My son really got into throwing. We obviously during the pandemic, we played cards every night until it warmed up, and then after dinner, and then when it warmed up, we'd just get the cornhole boards out every night and play the card. And my two boys got really into it. My youngest, last week, I was sitting there watching him, and he threw 8 into the hole in a row, just taking all the bags while he was practicing.
Right. So he belongs in the pro division if he's signing up.
Oh my goodness, I've beaten him once in 2020. That's it.
We'd love to have you do cornhole if you have anything to do this Saturday. It's a great time out at the lake at the camp, and if you've ever seen our camp, it's a great place.
I have not seen it. Nope.
That's a great opportunity to go out.
Well, I'll tell you what, Matt, if you call Jack Herrig, you can get a tour of the camp, and you could learn more about Rotary and see if there's a greater opportunity for you to participate in another community activity. So Dr. Rob can give you my number.
All right, we'll do, Jack. Is John Daly still on? He usually hangs out for a little bit.
John's on. Oh, he's muted. You're muted, John.
John, 10
There you
bucks.
go.
He gets a perfect attendance discount.
There you go.
There he is. How you doing?
Okay.
Good.
You still swimming, John?
Yep. 3 days a week.
Good.
Although I got thunderstormed out yesterday.
Mm. Yeah, I think everybody got thunderstormed out yesterday. A lot of rain.
Yeah, that was quite. I think one of my neighbors had a gauge and had 4.6 inches within about 6 hours of the storm.
Wild.
My goodness.
I thought we had more than the newspaper indicated.
What did they say in the paper today, John?
About 1.5 inches, as I recall.
A lot more than that.
I thought Akron Canton Airport reported 4 inches, so.
Wow.
The storm
I'm up in
just
Cuyahoga
before
Falls
this-
and I know it poured up there. I mean, it wasn't just a casual drizzle. It was a downpour for, probably a good 6 hours.
Yeah, they had a lot of flooding,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
The storm
Wow.
just before this, my daughter had 5.5 inches recorded down the street in the rain gauge. The water came up to the bottom of the docks out here to Portage Lakes, which we before. They were retaining so much water to keep it from going downstream.
Mm.
Wow.
Wow.
I told my wife I want to take credit for the 2 ponds in the stream that I installed in the backyard yesterday as a landscaping project. They're gone today, but they looked beautiful yesterday.
I hope you got some photos. Matt. Well, I live on Tinker's Creek, and usually we have this time of year, a bit of a trickle of a waterfall, but it's about a 6-foot drop. Last evening, when it cleared up enough to go outside and explore a little bit, there's an island right off our property that was underwater, and the waterfall looked like it was a kayak rapids. You couldn't
Wow.
even tell there was a 6-foot drop. It just was a chute of water.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
So I didn't get out for a bike ride, obviously.
I can't believe you're doing, well, wait, 30 miles is a slow day for you? You said it's normally 50 or 60?
Yeah, we usually do anywhere between 30 and 50, but tend to be 40 or 50 this time of year.
Man.
Because this time of year, I would usually have a century ride scheduled for this weekend, but all the organized 100-mile rides have been created virtually, so it's not quite as much fun.
I did 14 at the beach. I haven't biked in forever, and my legs were burning. So
Oh, it's all about muscle memory. You can get it back.
that's right.
I got to run. So thanks again, Matt. I really appreciate your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks, everybody.
Dr. Rob,
Yeah,
great
right.
job. Thank you.
It was really very good. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
welcome. Thanks.